Hey now, welcome to the dirty side of the track. Now, regular listeners are going to know three things right now. A, that's not our usual music. B, it's not me that normally does the introduction. And C, you all know the tagline that comes next. America's leading Formula One podcast. It's been our tagline since episode one, and Brian said it ever since. And it's not something that we burnt through an award. You know, we just started. We weren't going to get voted America's leading Formula One podcast. No, it was a tagline that came from Brian's mom. Um, big supporter of the podcast. Fair to say, he didn't really know what a podcast was and thought we were on the radio and always used to ask Brian what time our show started. But Brian, unfortunately, and all of the family is dealing with the news that she passed this week. So wasn't going to do an episode, but Brian said, look, she loved the pod. Please do the episode. Please make sure everybody knows that the tagline came from her. And she will always remain, one of our biggest fans. So absolutely gutted for Brian and the family, but decided we would go ahead and do the episode, just me. Um, Paul was traveling to Australia, so couldn't come on and host with me. So I thought, well, what are we going to do? How are we going to kind of do an episode to sort of carry out Brian's request that we do it? But you don't want to hear me monologue. So I put the request out to social media and said, hey, we're going to have a little bit of trouble recording this weekend. Can maybe people send in their own race reviews? So essentially, didn't tell everybody why. On one hand, it wasn't my news to spread. But on the other hand, as well, if Brian does listen to this episode, didn't want it to be kind of never ending list of condolences. So thought, let's hand it over to the Dirty Siders. Let's put the challenge out and let's see how many kind of race reviews we can get that I can play. And that can be our Singapore GP review. So people answered the call to arms. We've had a number of them sent in, which is just absolutely fantastic. So I'm going to kind of play those, kind of give my views as to the race as well, and then we'll wrap it up and we'll call that the Singapore Grand Prix review. So first things first, we got the first one sent in was from Paul. Now, both me and Paul knew the news, so you will hear Paul make reference to it in his review. And nobody else knew, and it's just great to hear everyone's kind of views of the race itself. So let's just jump straight on in and listen to Pit Lane Paul's review of Saturday.
Hey now, literally, welcome to America's leading Formula One podcast. Could not have been said by a better person. I'm recording this, well, I'm actually just landed in Sydney, so slightly after qualifying, but we had to get out of there. But it's not important, actually. I'm doing this in two stages because I want to first dedicate the first to Brian's mom, as you probably have all heard by now, by Rob. Unfortunately, yeah, things are bigger than Formula One sometimes. As much as that's probably hard for Rob to imagine, but no, things are genuinely bigger than Formula One. And Fridays suck. They were even more irrelevant this time. Quickly on qualifying, great lap from George. Can't complain. It's phenomenal. But on the whole, I just don't care. I'll come back tomorrow. Or actually later on tonight, as it will be, because I'll be up by the Great Barrier Reef in North Queensland, and I'll try and be a little bit more jovial, a little bit more fun. But I don't feel it's appropriate on the first one. And Brian, just get your head up, big man. If she's anything like you, she would have been an amazing person. And amazing people produce amazing kids. So fair play. Very sad, but yeah, I don't think there's much more to be said on that. I will speak to you later after, hopefully, what will be an exciting race if people can keep it out the wall. So fingers crossed.
Cheers, Paul. Right, okay, let's get into the rest of the reviews that came in. Now, fair play to Craig. He's gone and put in 3 reviews for us: a practice review, an FP3 and quality review, and a race review. So before we get into the rest, let's pick up the first one. So the first one came in from Craig, covering I think FP1 and FP2.
Hey now. looking back over FP1 and FP2. FP1, more like Fernando P1. FP2, all I could think was George! Lawson, doing Lawson things. Ferrari, playing bumper cars. I like Lewis's new helmet. Looks good in the lights.
That's just a fantastic 10-second summary of practice. I didn't get a chance to watch any of practice. I did see Alonso top the charts. And it's like, is it going to be one of those weekends where um, Aston gets some pace back again? But it wasn't going to turn out that way. So if we move ahead and start picking up the action on Saturday, we got two reviews in for Quali, another one for Craig, and then one from Dan at the midfield pod. So let's jump over and see how if Craig can do another one, kind of all put together in 10 seconds or less. Let's see Craig's Quali review.
Hey now. FP3, Lawson does his best Hamilton impression. Unfortunately, he went with Hamilton the musical. Have you ever seen somebody ruin a whole life? Then at the end of FP3, the entire top five was only separated by less than a tenth of a second. I thought that was kind of interesting to see. Quali, Q1, looked like the lineup of the usual suspects who would leave. Q2, Yuki then decides to try and outdo Lawson in the race to get Axe from the Red Bull family. Q3, George! Oscar, Lando, those three starting 1-3-5 off the line tomorrow should be good. Lando just needs to find a way to avoid the chaos and find a way to get around Oscar. Should be a great race.
Thanks, Craig. I'm loving the singing. I'm loving the singing. So let's just, before I give my view, let's go and see what Dan over at the midfield pod had to say about qualifying. We've had the midfield on before, so let's hear Dan.
What's up, Dirty Side? This is Dan from the midfield. Got my F1 Circuits shirt on today. Quick reaction to qualifying today. George Russell was phenomenal. Can't say his name in the midfield, but we're on your show now, so we can talk about him. He had 2 laps that were good enough for pole. Very impressive qualifying from him. Darth Vader was also equally impressive in the Red Bull, only to be hindered by his teammate Yuki Tsunoda in Q3, possibly costing him pole. But I can't feel bad for a guy like that. And then towards the back end of Q1 in our midfield, we had Isa Kajar, Ollie Behrman, Fernando Alonso, terrific laps in Q3, except we wouldn't have known it because we didn't see him at all in Q3. Interesting that those midfielders just disappear when the TV direction is on. But we saw 17 wives and girlfriends during Q2, but not any midfield drivers during Q3. So why are we seeing so many wives and girlfriends, but no midfielders? Something to ask the F1 TV direction, definitely. I'm excited for the race tomorrow.
So Dan there taking a little bit of offence as what he sees as a slight on the midfield. Midfield losing out to Wags, and I got to agree, there was a lot of coverage of girlfriends in garages this weekend. So kind of just to put a bow around what Quali gave us, Q1, Gasman really struggled. He was out, finished 20th. Ocon, Colapinto, Stroll, and Bortoletto. Bortoletto not out qualifying the Hulk for the first time in a long time. In Q2, Yuki, after a couple of decent performances in that Red Bull, kind of will end up being 15th. Lawson, Carlos Sainz, and Albon, although that's going to come back in a minute. And then the Hulk. Into the top 10, when we're all looking at to see what the Papaya Boys can do, and this is, I think Lando won by 20 odd seconds last year at Singapore. So we were all kind of expecting that it would be those two fighting for pole, but it never really got close. They really didn't really worry the leader, which then, looking back over the last couple of races, you probably would have said would be Max. We said that if Max could turn things around and dominate in Singapore, then maybe he really has got a shot gate crash in the title party. But Mr. George Russell looked feisty all through qualifying and absolutely nailed it to put it on pole. So we ended up with George, Max, Oscar, Kimi, Lando, Lewis, Charles, Isaac, Ollie Behrman, and Fernando Alonso. And then after quali, we would find out that there was a rear wing issue that the FIA scrutineering team found on both Williams. So they got disqualified from qualifying, but were permitted to race. But essentially, they dropped right to the back. So that's kind of how things would line up for Saturday, for the Grand Prix this morning. So let's have a little wander down. What have we got here? We've got 1, 2, 3. We've got a number of reviews here. We're going to start off, I think, in alphabetical order. So Az, who's on the Discord, has been on before. He ran the Cardiff Half Marathon this morning, so kudos to Az for running. He missed the first few laps, but then he was still able to watch along and phone in a review.
So, doing the recording just as the race finished, and I'm not sure what I just saw. Was it good? Was it bad? Was it boring? I'm not quite sure. So first, congratulations to Mr. Witness Protection, who won the race deservedly. He wasn't on pole and then managed to run a very clean race all the way to the end. I really was intrigued by Verstappen. As soon as the computer on the screen said that Lando will be able to attack in one lap, he increased his pace and put somehow Lando further back up. He closed it back again later, but it was really, really, I think, interesting for me how Verstappen was complaining about the car was locking up. He had to adjust settings, front, left, right, whatever balances here, and still managed to keep Lando just in his DRS, nice and comfortable, kind of settled the car halfway through the race despite all his potential issues. And, you know, he is unbelievable, right? Personally, I'm not one of those who's going to say he likes Verstappen because I don't, but I really respect him. It seemed that Lando was a bit amorous with one of the corners. He really liked to touch it gently from time to time, and nothing came out of it. So I thought maybe will they, won't they? But ended up no. It just continued on and it stopped. I guess, you know, a holiday fling and that's it. About lap 52, I was thinking, will Lando keep his cool behind Verstappen? Will he get desperate, or will he stay mature and think, yeah, I need to get the team the title here together with Piastri behind me? And I was pleasantly surprised to see he didn't do anything stupid. So maybe some personal growth is happening over the season for Lando. That's really good to see. And that's it. We're kind of stopping the blabbering, I think. You know, congratulations, McLaren. Congratulations, Mr. Witness Protection. And I just want to finish on kind of self-congratulatory tone, where in the beginning of the season, preseason, I said that Lando is going to finish behind Piastri. Most of the season, it didn't look so stupid. But I also said that Verstappen will finish first still. And most of the season, that looked very stupid. Now it looks a little bit less stupid, even though still highly unlikely, but it's making everything more interesting. So yeah, that was me at home, tired legs, and over and out.
Thanks, Az. I do appreciate you dragging your, I was going to say aged body around Cardiff Half Marathon, but let's not be mean because you phoned us in a race review. So I'm going to hold my back. I'm going to go through each of these and then I'll pick the bones out of each of them and give my thoughts, and then we'll kind of wrap it up in terms of that being our race review. So next in line, if you remember a few weeks ago, we had Ben and Cassandra came on, our first kind of double guest feature, husband and wife. And Ben gave us this as his race review.
Ben Hayborn here. Here's my take on the Singapore Grand Prix. Well, Toto Wolff's going to have a bit of trouble knocking George Russell's salary down for his next contract negotiations, eh? Zach Brown, he's got a little bit of comforting to do with poor old Oscar. But who cares? They're Constructors' champions. Sorry, Oscar. Come back next time. But they do have to look at that second pit stop, eh? And Carlos Sainz, 10th place from last on the grid. Is it Sparkle's power? We're yet to see. The next race, what can happen? Who knows? And Fernando Alonso. The guy's still got some feisty in him, hasn't he? He might be old, but he isn't done yet. Love to see him in a competitive car next year. And that is the Singapore Grand Prix.
Awesome. Cheers, Ben. Right, without further ado, let's go back over to Dan at the midfield and see what he made of today's action.
What's up, Brian and Rob? It's Dan from the midfield. Some quick reactions from the Singapore Grand Prix. Race just finished. We haven't seen scrutineering yet, so George may or may not be disqualified for plank wear being underweight. You never know when George wins a race. Just think back to Belgium. Last year, he hadn't won. It was the best driving performance of his career for about 2 hours. And then it wasn't. So let's hang on to scrutineering before we make any final judgments. But before that, terrific weekend from George, terrific weekend from Mercedes. He had zero pressure on him the entire race. He was nearly flawless. So great weekend from George and Mercedes. He's among the winners on the weekend. Another winner, the driver of the day for me, Carlos Sainz, going from the back of the grid after being disqualified from qualifying yesterday to P10. Of course, the midfield guy is going to pick the midfield driver to be the driver of the day. Shout out Sainz. It's not easy to pass at this track. They went medium soft. That's going to land Pirelli on my loser list, but I'll circle back to them. So winners, we've got George Russell, we've got Carlos Sainz, and then Max Verstappen had a good weekend. I don't really want to talk about him. Let's get to the losers. Who are the losers this weekend? McLaren. Wait, how can McLaren be a loser when they won the Constructors' Championship? Well, now that that battle's over, it is gloves off between Lando and Oscar, and we saw it lap one when Lando punted his teammate off into the wall and ran into Max in front of him. And then McLaren's like, oh, well, we're good. We'll talk about this after the race. Oscar was steaming all race. He was very upset about it. He thought it was unfair that his teammate made contact with him and pushed him aside. I agree with Oscar. So I think McLaren's going to be a loser in this because these drivers are about to fight each other the whole rest of the race calendar here. So maybe a winner is us because we get to see that. Another loser of the weekend for me is Pirelli. Anytime you're going medium soft during a Grand Prix, your tires are just too soft. We know this is a low degradation track. We know it. So why are we doing this compounded tire? Let's go one step softer so that we can't do medium soft during the Grand Prix. And then we'll have a good race weekend with maybe a lot more degradation on the softer tire. Good weekend all around. No DNF, so shout out to all 20 drivers, even Crash Pinto for finishing the race. One more hilarious comment for me. Fernando Alonso was trying to get by Isaac Hadjar, who had some engine issues and slowed down a little bit. So Isaac was defending as anybody would, as Fernando would, defend till the death, elbows out. Fernando gets by, and he makes some sarcastic comment, Race Hero Award of the day. Fernando, find me any time in your career where you didn't race somebody like your life depended on it. So him making fun of or mocking a rookie for racing hard, that was hilarious. Hat tip, Fernando. You made me laugh. Enjoy the weekend, boys. We'll talk soon.
Okay, thanks again, Dan. Right, next up, we have Hells, and I've listened to these, and it's quite interesting people's different perspectives on what they've seen. Like I say, I'll summarize it at the end. So let's have a listen to what Hells sent us in.
Wow, what a race. Singapore always gives us so much to talk about and to watch. No major incidents this time, just like 2024, so a little bit of a normal race. But of course, I spent most of the race talking about Lando's move on Oscar into turn 2, which was totally a racing incident. And yes, I'd have said that if it had been the other way round. It was just good, elbows out, hard racing, and that's what we've wanted from both McLaren drivers for the entire season. And honestly, I don't care what people say. McLaren are world champions again, back to back, and I couldn't be prouder to be a Papaya fan. As far as the rest of the race goes, George, brilliant drive, cannot fault him much as I want to because eek. But yeah, he drove brilliantly, and it was really good to see him get some recognition for that as well. Max, managing a lot of problems, it would seem, during the race, did a brilliant job as per usual. That guy could drive a Costco shopping trolley and still put it on the podium. Decent race from Osk, didn't really do anything wrong, just one of those where he couldn't make much headway. Overtaking in Singapore is a nightmare. Best part of the race, though, has to be all the radio calls because they were genuinely hilarious. The heat just seems to get to everybody, and if we had a programme of just the radio calls in that race, I would have it on repeat because they were hilarious. All in all, thank you very much, Singapore. You're one of my favourite races of the season, and can't wait for next year.
Okay, thanks, Hells. Right, back around now to the end of the hat trick from Craig. What did he make of the race?
The race. Lando was the chaos. Love seeing him get his elbows out. McLaren, back-to-back World Constructors champions. And then literally, after that, nothing else happened. Singer, snore.
Short and to the point. Okay, next, the penultimate one. Terry over at Coffee Corner. So let's see what Terry had to make of the action at Singapore.
That's Singapore in the bag. Not exactly box office, no chaos, no safety cars, just a procession under the lights, really. Let's be honest about it. George Russell has won it and take away nothing from his performance. Great drive, no mistakes, not much airtime, did nothing wrong and deserved the win. Max Verstappen in second, he had some gearbox gremlins, but was still trying to keep himself in the fight. Lando Norris third, enough for McLaren to lock in back-to-back constructors titles, and that for me is the big one this season. They've done the job early, they haven't made it look easy at times. That car hasn't got the same grip, the same swagger as what we saw earlier on this season. Norris had that incident during the start of the race. I feel it was a racing incident. Piastri's still fuming, and you can now start to feel that tension in the garage. They switched off the development, and it's showing they're not looking bulletproof anymore. Other teams are coming back, and this could be a factor in the total race for me. So yeah, the race was flat, but what comes next won't be. The Constructors' Championship is done, the gloves are off, and it's time to see who is actually the quickest driver versus driver when they go head-to-head, because there are no more excuses now for team orders. McLaren, you just got to let them race.
Yes, they have. They absolutely just need to let them race, and it's going to be brilliant to watch. Right, okay, rounding this out, we'll take Paul's review, and I will definitely not make the mistake of calling it a Paul sandwich on this episode. It's everyone's race reviews served on a bread of Paul. And here he is, maybe had a couple of beers, I think.
Hey now. Right. Queensland. And the very north of Australia. So, I mean, the first thing is I'm going to record this and hopefully send it to Rob. And there's some debate whether it will actually send. So who knows what will happen. But we toyed this up a few days ago, me and Rob, and I won't lie to you, we've been here and I've had a few drinks. Now, as you know, I don't normally drink, so it's a rarity. So we sort of had some amazing food. Then went to the pub to watch the Grand Prix, and really excited, buzzing for turn one. George versus Max. What are we saying? It was going to be explosive. Like, Max super aggressive. George, you might think he does have a vendetta versus Max. He's obviously going to close the door. So yeah, turn one, can't wait. And then the race started, and nothing like that actually happened. George got an amazing start. Max got a start. And then there was a bit of a confluence in the McLaren. So listen, I'm an Oscar fan. I ain't going to slam Oscar. I'm going to do it because I've got to do it. So listen, how can you be a professional podcast Formula One race reviewer if you're not going to sit on both sides of the fence occasionally? Oscar, I'm sorry. I don't think he had a lot to whinge about. It's just hard racing. Yes, aggressive by Lando, but look, at the end of the day, Lando's won with car damage, and then, I mean, spoiler alert, for the next 60-odd laps of the race, Oscar wasn't able to chase him down, so we'll just sort of leave that there. Speaking of the race, oh, God, let me think. Yes, no. Oh my God, nothing happened. Oh God! And on the race, I really wanted to spread some positivity to the Dirty Side crowd, because of the events this week. Oh my God, there's nothing I can say. And that was Singapore. George Russell, fantastic. I'll say it. I've said it before. I've said it again. Don't understand how that guy doesn't have a contract. He will get one. Like absolutely. Well, we know he's going to get one. It's just as and when. But again, it's another statement to people to say that this guy can actually. It was a brilliant performance today. Brilliant performance. Max, look, there was an issue yesterday during qualifying with Lando, which I think was a little bit farcical. I don't really understand what the complaint was, but again, good job, solid. Lando and Oscar, yeah, Lando chased Max down at the end, but you're not going to pass anyone in Singapore, really. There were the occasional overtakes. Fernando was quite funny, but he overtook a guy who had an engine issue, just to put that into context. I would just like to end this on... I'm going to put 2 notes on the end of this review. I think we can all safely say that this week can just go away, and we're happy to just write this one off. And I would say forget about it. Trust me, for some parties, we all know who it's a week that won't be forgot. But the race sort of summed up the mood of everyone. Really, it was just sort of like horror in hatred. And the second one is, well, at least we're in America next. Rob, I know you've done this one single-handedly. I've got no idea how the hell it's going to sound. I don't think anyone on this podcast is going to care. We messed up, man. We want him back. Take your time, brother. But the dirty side only works with 2 of you, and Rob is being the big leader, as you were, Sap, not so long back, but Rob is being the big leader. He's the one stepping up and being like, right, we're going to record. And I'm so sorry you don't actually have anything probably positive to record on. I don't know what to say. Oh, this week can go away. I am going to probably now go to sleep because it is quite late here. Obviously, we are literally the other side of the world from you guys. So the race finished at 10 o'clock here. So in time-wise zone, that's probably... probably 3-4 in the morning in America, I would guess.
Not even close, Paul. Not even close.
From here, we go to South Korea, by the way. We have a demo event in South Korea, and that's going to be interesting. So we used to race in South Korea in a little place called Mokpo. Mokpo was a fishing village, nowhere near Seoul, where you'd think it would be. Any logical person hosting a Grand Prix would put it near the city, ideally. No, we went to a place called Mokpo, and I can explain Mokpo. It was almost, because it was a fishing town and an industry town, it was almost like, if I cannot word this without getting the podcast banned. It was, the hotels we stayed in had key cabinets with a coin dispenser in the like the floor level, and then our rooms were let's say used all day. We use them at night time to sleep, and then during the day they were used to for other means, if you know what I mean. And you would think the hotel would have good cleaners. They didn't, and occasionally you would find these rubber envelopes of fluid down the side of your bed. So basically, South Korea are pushing for another Grand Prix. I would welcome it if it was a street circuit in Seoul, and I hate street circuits, but let's just play the game. Because I think, like someone like South Korea, I think it is a lovely country, and I'm really looking forward to going there. And I think the city's got a lot to offer, but trying to do a race out in the suburbs ain't going to work. And then we then fly from there to Atlanta before Austin, because that's just how flights work, and they suck. We got to go all the way to Atlanta to come back to Austin. But the beauty is we still land in Austin before we've taken off from Korea, because we've come over the date line and so on and so forth. But anyway, I don't even think that was a review. I don't know what that was, but I'm going to leave you now, and I am going to go to sleep and then wake up tomorrow and then be in Australia where literally everything wants to kill you. So, yeah, kudos to me, I guess. Speak soon, legends. Sup, man. Love you. Keep your head up. Remember, that star never stops shining, my friend. Love you, brother. Speak soon.
I don't even know where to begin sometimes with Paul's reviews. I was on track for the first half of that while we were talking about the race, and then the segue into South Korea. Let's just leave that one. Let's just leave that one to Paul. Okay, so looking at everyone's reviews and kind of how I saw the race, we've kind of got main storylines. World Constructors Championship. Well done, McLaren. Sealed it. We all knew it was coming, and they could have done it last race. They didn't. They nailed it this time, and it's back-to-back championship. So yeah, huge congratulations to McLaren. We also, maybe I tempted fate here. I said, "Oh, lightning can't strike twice. There's no way that we can have two Singapore Grand Prix back-to-back with no safety cars." Turns out you can. So we didn't get any carnage to kind of reset the race at any point, which I think probably also Dan picked up on this about kind of the tyres and Pirelli. Yeah. Singapore, where it's hard to overtake and where the tyres allow you to do a one stop and with no safety car intervention, it's just never going to be a spectacle. You can still find interest in it. You can still find sort of battles to keep an eye on, but you're just not going to get the wheel to wheel racing or the chaos that a safety car can throw in. I think another common theme was kind of Max, really pulling it out the fire to bring that home in second, as he seemed to be just dealing with gremlins for the entire race. We were kind of saying that Singapore was going to be the tester, that if he could come out there and dominate and win, then maybe he was in a shot for the driver's title still. But if he didn't, and points got taken away from him from anywhere else, then maybe it's an indication that it's going to be really hard for him to do it. And I think when the Papaya boys aren't on it and the pace isn't there for them to win, Max has to. And when something like this happens this weekend, where George absolutely nails it and won from pole in complete witness protection, barely think we saw him after the first couple of laps, didn't put a foot wrong, brings it home, and he takes the all-important 25 points. I think that we could see that happen a few times over the rest of the season. It won't always be that when McLaren don't win it, that Max necessarily does. I think George is going to be the one that maybe is the fly in the ointment for Max here. So I do think it's going to go down to the two McLaren boys. We obviously got a lot of love for Sainz. I mean, having to sort of ask permission to race after being disqualified from qualifying to start 20th and still grab a point. I mean, that is the smooth operator in action. Fernando Alonso, yeah, I got to agree again with Dan, is like, and Paul made reference to it as well. You would have done exactly the same thing. Hajar needs big kudos for holding you off for so long, actually. So, yeah, I don't think you need to make that Saki comment when you go past him. You should have actually been congratulating him for maybe being kind of reminding you of yourself and the way that you could make a car be 3 times as wide as it actually is. So, I think it's actually kudos to Hajar, and Fernando didn't really need to say that. Which kind of brings us to the last point. Lando versus Oscar. That's the big elephant in the room. The move that Lando put on Oscar, why not? It was there. It was there as an opportunity. The door was open. Did he get a little bit lucky with the way that he pinballed between Max and Oscar? Because anything could have happened there. He could have ended up in the wall. He could have ended up with puncture, damage, whatever. But he didn't. And he has to take these chances if he wants to fight for the title. He has to. Oscar, I'm going to cut Oscar a little bit of slack of maybe there were conversations that we're not privy to. If you were just reacting to that incident and saying it's not fair, I should give the place back, I'm sorry, that comes across as a bit of a whiny, spoilt brat. Like, it's racing. He overtook you. Deal with it. If you're better than him, catch him up, overtake him on the track, which you didn't. But we don't know what happens behind closed doors. We don't know what the conversations were. If there were big meetings before this race of, look, boys, today's all about the constructors. Nothing silly. Get it over the line. Then you've got whatever it is, 5-6 races left to go where you guys can just go head to head because we'll have the constructors in the bag. So therefore, nothing silly from either of you. If that was the one that was laid out, and then Oscar is sort of thinking, well, it's okay because, Lando's not going to do anything stupid, and he throws that up on the inside on the first couple of corners. Then I can kind of understand why Oscar is getting aggrieved. And I think what he's doing by bringing it up on the radio is for us all to hear the answer. Because if the answer comes back is, no, that's fair, just deal with it, he now knows where the battle lines are drawn for the rest of the season. That's now Oscar going, fine. If that's how it is, that's how it is. That's fine. Don't sit me down on Monday morning and tell me that next race we have to adhere to some kind of special rules, because this is it now. This, I think, is these two duking it out for the rest of the season. I don't see Max having an opportunity unless these two duke it out so much they end up DNFing each other. Then who knows? I honestly think we're in for a barnstorming end to the season. I think so. I think McLaren will let these two race now. There's nothing that they have to worry about or to protect. They've got the big shiny trophy in the cabinet now, so it's just about which one of these is going to lift the other trophy. So that's my view anyway. I think I'm going to call time on that. I'm just going to say thank you to everybody that kind of responded to the call to arms to get the race review sent in. It's, it was a strange week. Again, my thoughts out with the Sap man. I don't know if we'll do an episode next week. We'll just see which way the wind blows, and we'll either be back and do something along with a race preview, or we may just well skip a week because, like Paul nicely said, some things are bigger than Formula One. So that was the review. Thank you for listening along. And one last little thanks is to my brother for re-recording our high-powered energy intro, which I just didn't think suited the mood this week, and turning it into kind of a little acoustic version. So I think we'll play out with that as well. So thanks for listening along, and yeah, just thanks.